When I started this project, I wanted it to be a mix of FPS action and driving. You pull off a heist and try to evade the police in a classic American gas guzzler. I know it's not the most original or innovative concept, but it's fun, and in my opinion, not every game has to have a gimmick of some kind. The deeper I get into the development, the clearer it becomes that I cannot finish this game in a reasonable time frame. On my own, I'd have to be in crunch mode for the next 10 years in order to maybe bring a Frankenstein version of the original idea to life. I also don't want to cancel this game. I don't want to be one of those developers who's stuck in the unfinished project purgatory. So my only real option is to reduce the scope of the project by a lot. But before I get to that part of the video, let me ask you this. Are you an Unreal Engine game dev thinking of making a retro style game? If you answered yes, then I have the assets for you. Retro Graphics Pack will give your project that old school look. Make your project stand out with the help of particles and lens flares. Is your game missing characters? Well, here's a bunch of them. And if you're building a retro 3D inventory system, then retro rendering is the plugin for you. You can try out all these asset packs right now. Download link below. So in order to finish this game, I have to get rid of the first person shooting or the driving. If I decide to cut the driving part, then it would be about pulling off a heist and getting out of the building/area to your getaway vehicle. If you get to the vehicle, you win. If you don't, then you don't. If I cut the FPS part of the game, then you become the getaway driver, similar to a popular 90s game, Driver. Your job would be to evade the cops and to get to the safe house with a bunch of random side missions in between, like get rid of the car or pick up the gear from a supplier and so on. The outcome of the heist might hinge on your actions. Picture this: as you wait in your car for the perps to emerge, police car cruises past. If you're parked illegally or your car is visibly damaged, it could easily attract unwanted attention. There are pros and cons for both game ideas. Pros for the heist game: a lot smaller game area, which means fewer assets are needed and a lot less can go wrong. I wouldn't have to deal with a large-scale navigation system, which can be a nightmare. A lot of the FPS stuff is already done. Stuff like weapons and first-person animations are done. I'd probably have to retexture the weapons and arms because my texturing skills have improved. Cons: it's an oversaturated genre. There are plenty of FPS games on Steam, maybe not in a retro style, but the FPS genre has been oversaturated for decades. Pros for the driving game: people like the car damage system. The car damage system is by far the most hyped part of the game. Crushing Cars Devlog is one of my most successful videos. Easier to stand out. Not that many games in this genre, at least to my knowledge, and even fewer with this type of vehicle deformation. Cons: simple gameplay. People just aren't into driving games in general, so removing the FPS part might be detrimental to the game's success. Although many people think that Driver 3 would have been a better game had they removed the shooting segments, but I think it depends on who you ask. It would still require a whole city to be built. Unfortunately, there are basically no retro-style buildings on the marketplace, so I would have to model most of the buildings myself, which would take a lot of time. Of course, I would cheat a bit by reusing the same building over and over again. Vehicle AI support in Unreal Engine is subpar. The traffic and police AI would take up a huge part of development time. Actually, without this plugin, there is almost no support for vehicle AI. It's a difficult decision to make, but I'm sort of leaning more towards one of the solutions. However, I want to hear your opinion first, so please leave a comment or cast your vote in this poll below. I know some of you are going to suggest that I should team up with someone, but I don't want my first game to be a solo project. You might view it as arrogance or whatever, but it's mostly about the fact that it's a huge commitment to team up with someone or a group of people. Basically, you're tied to these people forever, especially if the game makes money. So I'd like to keep it simple, at least with my first game. Thank you to my supporters, Neko the Brave, Backscratch, and Michael Placido.